Yom Kippur War, also called the October War, was initiated by Egypt and Syria on October 6, 1973, on the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur. It continued until October 26, 1973. The war, which eventually drew both the United States and the Soviet Union into direct confrontation in defense of their respective allies, was launched with the diplomatic aim of convincing Israel to negotiate on terms more favorable to the Arab countries. On October 6, Israel was attacked simultaneously on two fronts by Egypt and Syria. With the element of surprise to their advantage, Egyptian forces successfully crossed the Suez Canal with greater ease than expected, suffering only a fraction of the anticipated casualties, while Syrian forces was able to launch their offensive against Israeli oppositions and break through to the Golan Heights. The intensity of the Egyptian and Syrian assaults, so unlikely the situation in 1967, rapidly began to exhaust Israel's reserve stock of munition. Israeli Prime Minister turned to the United States for aid, while the Israeli General Staff hastily improvised a battle strategy. The recurrence of the United States to help Israel changed rapidly when the Soviet Union commenced its own resupply effort to Egypt and Syria. U.S. President Richard Nixon countered by establishing an emergency supply line to Israel, even though the Arab countries imposed a costly oil embargo and various U.S. allies refused to facilitate the arms shipment. With reinforcements on the way, the Israel Defense Forces rapidly turned the tide. Israel successfully in disabling portions of the Egyptian air defenses, which allowed Israeli forces commanded by General Ariel Sharon to cross the Suez Canal and surround the Egyptian Third Army. On the Golan Front, Israeli troops, at heavily cost, repulsed the Syrian and advanced to the edge of the Golan Plateau on the road of Damascus. On October 22nd, the United Nations Security Council adopted Resolution 338, which called for an immediate end to the fighting. Despite this, however, hostilities continued for several days. Thereafter, the final ceased on October 26. Israel and Egypt signed a ceasefire agreement in November and peace agreements on January 18, 1974. The accords provided for Israeli withdrawal into the Sinai west of Mitla and Gidi passes, while Egypt was to reduce the size of its force on the east bank of the canal. A United Nations peacekeeping force established a buffer zone between the two armies. This agreement was supplemented by another, signed on September 4, 1975. On May 31, 1974, Israel and Syria signed a ceasefire agreement that also covered separation of the forces by a UN buffer zone and exchange of prisoners of war. In June, the oil embargo was lifted. With significant casualties and large quantities of military equipment disabled or destroyed, the war provided costly for Israel, Egypt, and Syria. Nevertheless, although Egypt did not win the war in any military sense, its initial success in October 1973 enabled President Anwar al-Sadat to pronounce the war an Egyptian victory and to seek an honorable peace.